and therapy don't have to be in separate worlds. In today's episode, our special guest opens up about how spiritual grounding and emotional healing work hand in hand and how parents can bring peace and purpose back into everyday family life without it adding more to the to-do list. So stay tuned. Kelly, do you mind just telling me a little bit about faith and therapy and how those connect together and how to marry those two in a way that feels safe with a therapist?
Yeah. Okay. I definitely think they can be used together. I think they're actually a really good fit. And one of the ways, and personally, it has helped me a lot. As I talked about earlier, I went through my own anxiety journey after dealing with years of infertility. And I felt like I had come up against some practical limitations in my faith. It felt like this big thing. I'm like, okay, I'm praying and I'm doing the thing. And I feel like I'm doing spiritual practices, but I feel like I'm not going anywhere. I feel like I'm just going around the same mountain. And then once therapy came in, this missing piece that I needed. Because as a Christian, I read the Bible, and one of the verses in the Bible is to take every thought captive, right? Because the battle is in the mind, right? There's so much going on in our thoughts. And so I was like, that sounds great. How do I do that? I had no clue what to do with that. But then I learned cognitive behavioral therapy. And I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the way you take thoughts captive. And that was just huge for me because now I had this framework. I had this great take every thought captive, make it obedient. Yes, I want to do that. How? Okay, framework, CBT, right? Was the way that I could do that, that I can look at my thoughts, challenge them, restructure them, reframe them, and come out with something that is true and helpful for me. So that was a really big thing. And so I help other people of faith to understand that this is not like an either or. These are not like science and faith. Like, this is not some oppositional thing here. They can really go together. And I think it's such an individual experience, like bringing faith into your therapy. And so I'm super respectful. I really talk about people's comfort. Do you want scripture? Do you want faith based resources? Do you want to talk about spiritual disciplines? Even some people who identify as Christian, they're like, I'm good on that. I want the therapy part. It's just helpful that you're a person of faith and you speak my language. If I talk about something, you're going to know what I mean. And so it really runs the gamut on people's comfort and what they want to incorporate there. Being I'm super respectful of that. I'm
Yeah.
like, yeah, we can add as much or as little as you want.
Yeah.
Uh,
Tell me a little bit about that because the more that I have that conversation, even not knowing their faith background, I just reassure them like there is place for spirituality or faith in therapy, and it's actually a very helpful part many times.
yeah.
Would you like that? And a lot of people are like, I didn't know that was okay. And so that is something that we do. What would you recommend for people
Well,
that are looking to do that, but they're maybe a little nervous how because really it's a very vulnerable relationship, and what if
mhm.
they do something that, doesn't resonate with their faith or just feels uncomfortable? Like, what tips would you have for people that are looking to incorporate that more and have that be part of their experience?
Yeah. I think they really need to pay attention to that, right? That's again observing, oh, I'm uncomfortable with that, or that doesn't totally align with the way that I believe or what my faith practice does. So I think it's important for them to bring that up if they felt like, oh, I don't know if I feel like that. Like, I really want to encourage that. Let's explore that. Or it's also just okay to leave some stuff, right? Like, they don't have to take everything with them that we talk about in therapy sessions. I think that happens quite a lot, right? You're like, okay, so like people are not like fans of affirmations, right? But like they're super helpful. We know that studies show that they're really helpful in changing our perspectives, but they're not doing those things outside of therapy, right? So I think it's okay for them not to adapt some of the things, but I would really welcome the conversation. And I think part of it is like really being attuned to your person too, right? So noticing, oh, what was that? Like they're not sure, but if we can pick up on that, we can address it. And is there something in their faith practice that could be helpful instead?
Or so say somebody does want to incorporate spirituality or faith into their therapy, what kinds of things do you notice clients coming about? Like they want to work on this one realm of wellness that is spiritual and they want to deepen that their relationship with God and those types of things. From a therapeutic lens, what could you tell listeners that would help them if they're feeling like distant or tired or just stagnant in their spiritual growth? What would you recommend or what would you say to them?
I think it's a lot like how we get there physically, right? I think when we're tired physically, I like to go back to basics.
Mm.
Like, okay, how's your sleep? Are you sleeping okay? What's the quality of your sleep? What about your diet? Are you running on good fuel or are you eating garbage? Are you staying hydrated? Are you moving your body? So I think that there are foundational things that we do in life that help give us the most support. And I think that's really similar in spiritual practices, right? There are spiritual principles and disciplines. And what are those? And are you engaging in them,
Yeah.
right? Are you spending time in prayer and meditation? Are you spending time in worship? Are you in community, either with God or other people? Right.
Mm.
And so just get back to the basic. Where are you at with that? And a lot of times I'll hear, oh, yeah, I've been doing that. I'm not staying in the word. I'm not spending time just in quiet times of contemplation, which is go. So I would really encourage let's see your schedule where you can carve out some time to get back to those basics.
Right. Going back to stories, and if you have any, I'd love to hear yours. But I was thinking about a couple clients, but also even individually. There was a time when I had a lot of questions in my faith and I felt unsettled about those. It
Mhm.
made me not as faithful having those questions. And I've since worked through that just fine. But it was really helpful to have a couple mentors. I didn't find this in therapy. I wish I would have, but where I could just share those things out loud and talk through them, and it didn't make me less than. So I think there's space
Yeah.
in therapy for that too. I love how you said, just going back to the basics. So what is the community like? How are you developing that relationship with God? And why do you want to deepen that relationship? What do you enjoy when you do that? And getting back to,
Right.
okay, actually, yeah, when I was really focusing on these basics, I just felt this peace, this calm that I haven't had lately, and I miss that. So remembering why and going
Mhm.
back to that. So again, I'm thinking myself that that really helped me, just somebody being there to help me work through some of those things, but then also not like trite things, but almost this like loving encouragement and belief. Like I wanted to see that in myself, but it's also so beautiful to get that from another person. But I specifically was thinking also about this other client that I had that came to therapy, and she same thing, was having a lot of doubts, and there's no space in her life where somebody could just say, "Yeah, that's okay." I didn't essentially say all
Mhm.
the, but
Yeah.
it's okay that you're feeling all of these things. It's okay that these challenges are coming up, like normalizing it, talking through
Yes.
it, just making space for that. Just like what you talked
Mhm.
about before about not trying to fix it, not trying to make it better, but almost this acceptance of it. Do you have any
Mhm.
thoughts on that or a personal experience that you could share that would help us better understand that?
I think most of the people that I know, anyway, I think in our faith journeys, we're all gonna come up against a wall. Or we're like, "Do I really believe this? Is it because maybe something in our experience, our circumstance is just being like, this isn't true. This isn't working. This is hard." And yeah, like I've experienced a crisis of faith where I'm just like, really? Am I gonna, is this real? Where are you, God? And other people I know and I've worked with have had those as well. And so I think, how do we get over the wall? Like, how do we get through that? Really, what is it that we're up against here? What is the thing? And I like how you were saying, like, why do I want to go deeper? Why do I want to? I think examining that. What's the motivation here? What's the circumstance? Do I feel like he's abandoned me? Okay, how are you spending time with him? He's not helping me do this thing, right? I think we feel like this journey is going to be really smooth and great. And it's actually been hard too. And so when we come up against challenges, are we looking at it as failure or are we looking at it as abandonment? Or is it just really a normal stage or process in life? Is this just part of the human experience. So is it this all or nothing thing? Or is this just a phase or just a part of the journey? So I would want to explore that. And really getting back in touch. Okay. Looking back at my experience, this is a tough time right this moment. But look at all the times where faith has really buoyed me, really supported me, and been an important part of my journey. Am I really just going to throw all that away? Or what can I learn from that? Or looking at my values. And sometimes it just came down for me, particularly just making a choice. Okay, this is hard right now, and I maybe feel distant, but I think that there are going to be times like that. And that doesn't really erase kind of the core truths that I live by and that I feel are part of my like anchoring and who I am. So I think sometimes it's helpful when we're working with people to really get in there with them and okay, what are they experiencing? What are they thinking? Where are they at? Where are other times they felt let down or they felt their God was with them? Can we draw back on prior experience to help navigate what we're going through today?
Just a lot of important little truths there to consider as we're going through that. And I do love going back to that too. Like it's reminding ourselves that this is part of the human experience and it's okay if we're needing comfort or just sitting in that for a little bit, but maybe taking a step back from it. And that's what's really helpful with a third party, with a therapist, especially,
Yeah.
and advocating for yourself. I think that's a part that we haven't really talked about is
Right.
say you have a therapist you really like and just say, you know what, I didn't think that you could talk about faith, but that's something that I really want to explore in therapy. And if it's a good therapist, they'd be willing to do that and not guide you in a way you don't want to know. But I tell people a lot of times, make sure that you also are clear in your communication about your wants and your needs and your desires in therapy, even with your therapist. I'm not comfortable going there right now. I don't really
Yeah.
want this. I do want this. And people are like, oh, I didn't know that I could do that. I'm like, of course you can do that. It is
Yeah.
hard if you're not great at communicating, but you can practice that too.
Yeah, it's definitely part of my intake process. Do they have any spiritual beliefs? Are they active in those things? What are they? Because I think even if they're different from mine, I can always inquire, okay, what are you things that you've learned that help you in times like this, right? What are some spiritual practices you can draw on that are helpful? What did your family do? What do you do that helps you? Because I think we all need something to believe in,
Yeah.
you know?
Can you think of an example from a client that has
Mhm.
incorporated faith into therapy that has really taken off and improved in ways that maybe they wouldn't have without that faith aspect in therapy?
I can think of somebody that I worked with in the past who was maybe not fully invested or engaged in their spiritual life, uh, but was raised that way, but didn't really own it for themselves, but was able to, through work, like explore that that really was a valuable and important part of their life and was able to develop some practices and habits and really read more, like really learn more. I think a lot of times people feel like it's just this thing that they feel, like it's this uh I feel this spiritual feeling or I don't feel it, like it's a sensation. And that's how they kind of judge, oh, do I or they equate it with happiness. If I'm not happy, then I'm not doing it right. You know, and by really learning more about their faith, I think it automatically just starts to, oh, wow, okay, I didn't know it was this. And I didn't know this is something I could, that there are practices that I can do or things that I can do to draw closer that help me in my relationship with my God, really guiding people through that. I've seen people really take off and really own their own faith.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's cool.
It reminds me of one of my clients too. We have been meeting together for a while, and he said, yeah, for the first 6 months, you're having me do all these therapeutic tools, and they're all really great and everything. But once we started talking about the spiritual aspect, that was something that had been dormant in my life for a while. I
Mhm.
didn't really think much about it, but we started doing these meditations through this spiritual lens. That's where I do some of
Yeah.
these. This is something that he wanted to do more. So I knew that was something he was open to exploring. And so we did that in a meditation, and it was just incredible. So we started doing more of that at his request, and I would check in and get feedback. And then by this last session, this last week, he just said, again, Kendra, I'm just so blown away. All of those things in the beginning were very helpful, all of those therapeutic tools that were not faith based. But since we've added that component, those are the things that have been completely transformational for me. And I always think about
Oh,
him because
cool.
they're different realms of wellness, right? And some
Yes.
will resonate more with others. But for him, this is
Yes.
really what connected to his why, to his values, and
Mm,
helped him make changes that he wouldn't normally make because of his spiritual foundation that was so important to him, those beliefs. And I think for a lot of us, it's
that's
that
so
way,
cool.
but we don't even think about harnessing those. I'm really
Yeah.
glad that you're speaking to this and we're getting that message out to people that, like, yes, you can request that. And yes, there is space for that. So I'm so
Yeah.
glad that you brought up some of those points and things to consider and how that could be helpful in therapy. Any final thoughts, though, on faith and therapy coexisting, or any tips that you give to listeners that want to go that route?
I love the work that you're doing with this person that you're just sharing. I think that's so great. And I think I would say, okay, if you want to career faith, I would really say, are you plugged in with a church or a church community? Because I also think that's really important as well. That's a great place to feel connected to, for me in the Christian, like the body of the church, right? Like other
Mhm,
people, a faith community is really important. So I would really encourage that. So you don't have to do this by yourself. Yeah, you can come and spend an hour a week with me, and we will definitely explore these things if you want to. But there's a lot of hours
mhm.
in the week outside of the time we spend together, and so I think getting connected with people in your faith community is huge.
Absolutely. And you're right. It's just like 1 hour of therapy usually, and that's not nearly as much. And so what you can do, that's a big conversation I've had with several of them because there's some resistance, especially after COVID and different things, hard to get back into
Mhm,
that. And yet when they
mhm.
do, they almost always there's an increase in happiness. Sometimes there's
Yeah,
things to work through as they're learning to interact with people again, but that's also
yeah,
part of the human experience that makes them stronger and become who they're meant to become.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And my last question for you is, what is something you've personally done to deepen your own fulfillment? I like to hear about what other people are doing to build that fulfillment in their lives personally.
There's so many things I think that are fulfilling. My work definitely, I think, continuing to learn and grow. I'm a lifelong learner, so I know I'm never ever gonna get there 100%. I'm just on this journey, picking up little nuggets here and there and sharing them, doing the work with others, and then doing my own work. Because I think it does start with me. Like, I've got to take care of this person. And we are multidimensional people, right? Or physical, spiritual, emotional, mental, all these things. And so I do think it's really important to take care of oneself so that we can help others. And so that has been a really important shift for me because I was a go do person and I would sacrifice the body, do all the things, stay up really late to fulfill all the commitments that I had to other people. It was really through my anxiety experience that I was able to go, wait a minute, I matter too. And to
Mhm,
be able to say no to things and protect my time and use it to care for myself too, like putting on oxygen mask on first before other people, really learning to do that. That has been just a lifelong process for me, but I feel it's like doing the work, it matters. And that is very rewarding to me. And then being able to share those things with others is it's really, I feel like my calling and what I find joy in. And yeah, that is for me very fulfilling.
sure. Thank you. That's a great way to end that too. If people are just loving what you're talking about with faith, with stress, with all of these things, maybe they have more questions, they want to reach out. Where can we find you?
Um, I've got a website, kellywallmft.com. And yeah, you can find me on Instagram as well. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And I'll put that in the show notes too. Thank you so much again, Kelly, for coming on the show and just all of your nuggets of wisdom and things that will help us take our lives to the next level. So I really appreciate you coming on.
It's been a pleasure. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Thanks for being part of this discussion with Kelli on weaving faith and therapy together. To learn more about joining our internship program or scheduling individual coaching or receiving those weekly emails filled with insight and inspiration, visit fulfillmenttherapy.org and connect with us through our social media links there, as well as in the show notes of this episode. I'll see you back here next Monday for new episodes.